All right, so today we're going to do the green eyes with the freckles, and I start by using an 18-aught script liner to do the outline of the eye. So, and I'm going to use a mixture of antique green, jade, and a little bit of the smoked pearl. And just kind of mix those together till I get kind of a light green. And you, of course, can choose any colors you want, but this is just my example of what I do for a green eye. So this is going to be what the colored part of the eye will be. To start with, on the outline, I'm going to just use a little bit of the antique green and just put a very fine outline of her eyes. Now her eyes are not going to be perfectly round because she's smiling, and so the bottom of the eye is kind of under the lower lid. Her eyes are incised, so you can make them the size of the, follow the lines that are there, or you can make them a little bigger if you want to. Diana incised the eyes to make it easier for people to get them, for the focus. So I'm just going to do a little fine line along the bottom. And then now I'm going to do a mixture of the brown earth and the phthalo green. And we're going to go over the outline of the eye with that. Just to intensify the outer part of the eye. I'm not doing great big huge eyes on her because when you're smiling your eyes kind of look smaller because they're partially covered under the lids. So now I've done the outline of the eyes. Now I'm going to take a 10-aught filbert, and I'm going to use that to add the color to the middle of her eyes. It usually takes a couple coats to get it where you want it. So I'm going to have to let that dry just a tiny bit before I put any more on there. Kind of blend it a little bit. So we're going to have to let that dry just a little tiny bit before we add another layer of the color to it. And then I need to find a brush for the pupil. Want something small. Guess we'll go with that. Gonna add a little more color. Green eyes are my favorite I love redheads with green eyes and freckles. So I do a lot of green-eyed dolls. Okay, I think we got enough color in there. So now we're going to start the pupil, and I'm using a 10-aught spotter for that. You want a very tiny little brush to do your pupils. And I'm going to start out with the antique green to just get the shape and the size, and then I will add color till we get the black for the pupil. Because she's smiling, the pupil is going to almost touch her eyelid on the bottom. Get the general shape and size. Gotta get them both the same size. So now I'm going to start adding a little more color so I can see how they look. I'm going to add a little bit of the brown earth and the phthalo green to darken them a little bit. I believe we're going to have to let them dry just a little before we can do anything else to them. And if you can look back at it, you can kind of make sure that your gaze is like it should be, you know, that she's looking at you. And the darker they get, the easier it is to see that, and you can make adjustments if you need to. Once that dries, we're going to start adding the black, the carbon black. Just going to put it on real light for the first coat to make sure that they're like they should be. We need to add a little more on this side here. Looks like I need to take a little bit off right here.
So you didn't draw the cross this time?
No, I didn't.
Do you usually?
I don't normally, because I paint enough of them that I know pretty much where it goes, but that is something that beginners should probably always do, you know. And I believe that you showed a picture in the instructions for that also.
Yeah, you demonstrated that the last time.
Since this is such a tiny little eye, it's kind of It's kind of hard to not get it in focus.
I see.
Because she's so small. It looks pretty good. I just got to let it dry a little bit more so I can get the black to stick on it. Okay, let's try to get another layer of black on here. Usually takes 2 or 3 coats to get it good and dark. I go back sometimes and take some of the color and add it around if I need to shape the pupil a little bit, or if it needs a little more color somewhere. Try to get these a little more round. Okay, while that's drying, I'm going to go back and it looks like this eye might be just a tiny bit smaller than the other one. So I'm going to go ahead and take a little of this brown and green and just add a little to the outside here. I think that's a little bit closer to what it should be now. It's always kind of trial and error to make sure you get everything the same size. Because you want your eyes to be the same size and you want your pupils to be the same size. And I think this is probably going to be the last coat I have to put on the pupils. And I just messed up. So while it's still wet, I can go back and get that out. Sometimes the hardest thing is getting a round circle. No matter how many times you paint it all, it's still... Okay. I think that's pretty good. Go ahead and touch this up a little bit. Okay. I think we got that now. The next thing that I'm going to do is take this 15-aught Ultra Lash, it's called. It's a very, very skinny brush for doing lashes, and I like to use this to start adding the shading and the color into the eyes. So I'm going to take the brown earth and the phthalo green, and I'm going to do a little bit darker up around the top, over the pupils, to do a little shading. And then I add just a little bit around the pupils. Just to kind of take the intensity of the black out. I just add a little bit of this around the pupil area. Okay, now I'm going to take some of the black, carbon black, and the phthalo green, and I'm going to darken the shading and the outline of the eye a little bit with that. My brush is getting a little curly on the end. And I'm also going to pull just little tiny, I don't know what you want to call them, little sprigs out of the pupil to soften it as I did with the light green. Just so the pupil doesn't look so stark and starry. Okay, now we're going to do this side. Start pulling a little bit out of the pupil. You have to have your paint pretty wet to do this so that it makes a real fine little tiny line. Kind of looks like a star effect to it to pull that out around the pupils. Okay, I'm going to take just a tiny bit more of the lighter green and brown. Go along the bottom again. Okay, so then I'm going to go back to my 18-aught script liner. And I'm going to use some of the black and go back over the eyelid, if I could talk, to intensify that. Just over the eye and to the corner. And you want it to pretty much meet with the top of the pupil, so you don't see any of the green up there. Okay, so now we've got the eye painted. I'm going to do a little bit of shading, and for that I use the Payne's Gray and the Smoked Pearl. Mix that together. And I'm going to just do a little line along the bottom of the lid. And then under the edges of the top of the lid. Just really soft, not too dark. Okay. And then I'm going to take the purple madder and the moss green and a little bit of brown earth till I get a soft pink. And then we're going to do just the right above where the eyelashes are going to be, just a little bit of the pink for the lower lid and the corner of the eye. And then we'll be, on the next video, we'll be doing the lashes, and that will go, the lash line on the bottom will go right at the edge of this pink. And then I'm going to take my burgundy and my burnt umber and just intensify right in the corner where her tear duct is. Just a little outline. And then once she's got her lashes and brows, she'll be ready to have her eyes glazed. So this is Green Eyes.